My name is Marissa DeSales, and I grew up in South Sacramento, and I identify as a female, heterosexual, and I just wanted to say to anybody that does not identify the same way I do, I see you, I love you, and I'm so glad you're here. Okay, so my family life consists of, I live with the 6 loves of my life, my 81-year-old mother who has dementia, my partner in crime and other things, my 2 incredible, beautiful children, and my 2 beautiful but also very annoying cats. Okay, so that's let you know which side of the cat-dog fence I'm on. Just want full disclosure, guys, okay? I don't want to hide anything. All right, so why I love data, okay? Again, full disclosure, I was an English major, okay? I still, to this day, break out in a cold sweat on time card day because I cannot convert minutes to decimals to, I'm sorry, I can't do it. Every time they send it back and I have to initial it, it's terrible. So I say that to make you feel like you can do this, okay? You don't have to be a mathematician to be able to mine your data to make better informed decisions about your messaging, okay? Because data is powerful. You'll forgive me for the Star Trek memes, okay? Or you won't, whatever, I don't really care. Okay? Data is powerful. If you can't see the graphic, it says, I could kill everyone here if I wanted to. I can't do the like emotionless data voice, I'm sorry, I emote all the time. But, is that one better? Better? Better. Okay, good. Okay, and also I happen to think, and I apologize in advance if this one's a little too risque for this audience, but I happen to think data is sexy. All right, so data is our friend because it can help us answer some really important questions. Who are our donors? Who are these people that are giving us money? What do they want to hear from us? Versus what do we need? Where is the best place to reach them, and which message are we going to send them? Okay, so those questions can translate into data. Okay, first let's talk about CRM data. Okay, CRM is short for Constituent Relationship Management. That's a big, ugly mouthful. What it means is it's the place that stores all your info, all your stuff. Okay, the way that I think fondly about our CRM. When I first started at Project Ride, there was this wonderful lady there named Jean. And Jean was the volunteer coordinator. And she had the biggest, oldest Rolodex I have seen in my life or ever or since. It was huge. And she had everything in there. She had on one card a person's name, she had the birthday, she knew who their husband or wife was and whether they were divorced, importantly, okay? She had donations they had given. I don't know how she managed to fit all this data onto a 3x5 index card, but she did, and sometimes there were things stapled to them and other stuff, paperclipped to them or stickers, like everything was in there. So when I think about our CRM, I think, would this be in Jean's Rolodex? Oh yeah, that data's got to be in there. Okay, get that data in there. So if that helps you just kind of visualize what it is, it's your organization's giant Rolodex in the sky. Okay, you can use that historical giving data, especially, to really think about the best way to reach your donors. So, and also the evolution of data. I go from the Rolodex, it went to Excel spreadsheets. Some of you are still on Excel spreadsheets, I can tell by your sheepish grins. And then the next evolution is a cloud-based CRM, which is where you really need to get to. It's okay if you aren't there yet, but you're ultimately going to need to get there. Okay? So, there's about 70 million CRMs out there, right? It's very daunting if you don't have one and are thinking, I need one, to choose which one of these is going to be right for you. And I'm so sorry, but I can't tell you a one-size-fits-all answer because there just ain't one. Okay? Because that's the fundamental thing about a CRM. It needs to fit your needs, not mine. Okay? So at this point, I want us to turn to the resources seated at your table. And let's have maybe a 5-minute, maybe we'll stretch it to 7-minute chat about CRMs. And all I want you to do is go around the table and say, if you have a CRM, what its name is, if you do. If you like it, why or why not? And I mean like 30 seconds. You're not going to have a whole lot of time to go into detail, but try and summarize in your head. If you have one, do you hate it? Do you love it? Do you love it but? Try and distill that into a short message that you can share with your table mates, and then I'll ask one person from each table to give us a quick synopsis. So appoint one of yourselves a record taker. You're the one that's already taking notes. You're pretty much voted in, okay? Okay? And we'll go now on to say about CRM. All right, so we'll kind of close it up. Close it up. There's obviously much to be said, right, about CRMs. We love them. We hate them. We hate them, but wish we loved them. We love one thing about them and hate everything else. So talk to me. Let's report back. What did you guys kind of, synopsis from each table? What happened? Stand up.
I didn't know I'd be talking today.
Yeah.
So for the most part, my table is using Excel sheets at the moment, and that's the way they're operating in terms of like collecting their data. I work for City of Sacramento, so since it is a national nonprofit, we are lucky enough to have the opportunity to have Salesforce. We call it CY channel, but we can track data like 15 years back. So I know I can look up somebody's name and say like, oh, they donated $5,000 at our gala last year, and the year before that they donated 10, and the year before that they donated 25. So what happened, between the last 30 years that made them jump down to 5, So yeah, sorry.
Thank you so much. I'm so sorry for you guys and your Excel sheets. So I think at least consider migrating to Google Sheets instead of Excel, because then you can start to actually work on the same document at the same time without it exploding your server, okay? We had one Excel sheet for the rider attendance, and one for the rider parent addresses, and one for the horse owner addresses, and when I started at Project Rider, it was ridiculous. You had to go 17 places to find one really valid piece of information, okay? And it didn't talk to each other. So migrating it to the cloud is the first step, because then literally you can work on documents at the same time and know who did what. It stores that metadata for you. Metadata. So we also use Salesforce. We are a very small nonprofit, so we fit in their free category of under 10 users. I personally built our Salesforce instance, and it was like learning how to build a jet engine. But now we have a jet engine, that we can use to tool next door. So it's super, super powerful is the message about Salesforce. This learning curve is like an elevator, okay? But it's very flexible, it's scalable, and it integrates with our communication channels. So we can not only know whether this rider has been with us for 4 years, we can see the exchange of texts between him and his mom and us about scheduling. We can see that she attended our steak dinner event last year. Okay, all of that data, if you want, we can even stick a picture of her in there so we can remember what she looks like, right? All of that data is available at our fingertips, and that's what you want your CRM to give you, okay? This next table back here, why don't you guys come over?
So we've got DonorPerfect, GiftWorks, DonorPerfect, spreadsheet, but trying to move over to something, something else. And I have Little Green Light, which is one of the ones. I hope I get a referral bonus from Little Green Light, because I'm talking everybody into this, but it's it works out really well. We like it a lot. Did that cover it? Okay, good.
Yeah, great. would be surprised if we don't hear like 20 different, CRM names in this process.
There you go.
So we have 3 different, these guys use Network for Good, but the challenge is that their headquarters is in San Jose.
Yeah.
So to get any donor information, they have to contact somebody at headquarters to get it. I use Razor's Edge by Blackbaud. The pros is it's super robust and comprehensive, but that's also a con. It can get a little bit confusing because there's so much to it. I probably wouldn't suggest that unless you have like a ton of donors. And then you use DonorSnap. She said it was effective, it tracks campaigns and generates thank you letters. Super intuitive and easy to use.
Oh dear.
Okay. Let's see, at our table, we have 2 late arrivals. I'm not quite sure if you know what you're hearing.
We're with Habitat for Humanity, we happen to be with Roseville on Placer County, and we have an internal, self-development kind of thing among the habitats that we use, and apologize for being late, by the way. But it collects donor information, volunteer information, of what fundraising activities, or, you can generate letters from that and do some tracking.
And then the other 2 here, Salesforce, which you're not too thrilled with, difficult to get the information out, and then DonorPerfect, basically the same. And I'm kind of new to this whole thing, so I'm not quite sure what our organization is doing, but I have a feeling it's spreadsheets. We're small.
You gotta start somewhere, right? At least it's not in Gene's Rolodex, like.
How about you guys? We've got an Excel spreadsheet. Can't afford any of it.
Spreadsheets in Salesforce, which I don't love.
Well, Salesforce, that's, okay. That's odd. And then DonorPerfect and
The Blackbot Ultra.
Blackbot All True. Okay, that's us.
Any feedback from any of you guys who kind of echoed some of the other issues, like, really robust also means harder to use kind of stuff? And any of, okay, how about you guys?
It sounds like we're pretty much going to be echoing a lot of what are the other tables. The 2 of us, Jan and I, both use Excel still. I'm trying to bring welcome home housing up to the 21st century slowly. So I'm still looking, but I do not like Excel anymore. As we've grown, it kind of just ended up getting more and more cumbersome. And it literally starts corrupting the data when it starts to be shared back and forth between people. So I experienced the same thing that you were expressing. And then Jasmine from the California Railroad Museum uses the Blackbot Razor's Edge, and she was saying that it's not very user-friendly, even though they have like 40,000 donors and emails on there. It's just really not very intuitive to use. And Ashley came kind of late, so I don't know if you have a CRM that your organization is in.
How about you guys?
We're both using systems that we're not thrilled with at the moment, so 2 organizations represented here. So we have California Farmland Trust is using DonorPerfect, but is not thrilled with it and is investigating Little Green Light, which I was then like, yes, do that, because I love Little Green Light, which I was using until my new job. And we use Neon CRM, but honestly also we use Excel, we use our ED's head, we use, I've been there 3 weeks and I'm like, what is that? Who is this? What is happening here? Where's this list? So it's not all in one place.
Hi, I'm Natalia Baltazar with Empower YOLO.
I was the only one at our table who had a CRM, but we are researching and trying to learn. We use Salsa, and I feel like it's Gene's Rolodex. I find it frustrating only because it's not necessarily doing the things that I would like for it to do to get to the next level. And I find you have to email them for support, and when you're stuck in the middle of a problem, you need somebody right away. And sometimes when I do what they say, it doesn't do it, so then you have to email them again for more support, which I find is frustrating while you're in the moment of trying to do it. So one of our questions was, how do you figure out which one will work best for your agency? Like I sat down with the rep and did the his sales pitch, and then when I sat down on my own, I was like, it's not anything what he said it was going to do. Which is frustrating, right? And so now we're in this process of trying to find a new one. So I don't want to get back into that same situation where I'm sitting with the sales rep and he's showing you all the bells and whistles, but then you're not paying for those bells and whistles. And the basic stuff they say you can do, you can't figure that on your own without emailing somebody.
Yeah.
So I guess we're asking for your advice on how to find one that works best for your agency.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a fantastic question. And even people that already have one and are reevaluating need to kind of be mindful of this too. But the number one qualification in my mind for a successful CRM is that it fits your business processes. Okay, not the shiny stuff that it says it can do. You may not need, may not be able to afford, may not even want the shiny stuff, the bells and whistles, right? But if you invest some time up front, really thinking through and documenting, I don't care if you have to get like a big piece of butcher paper and like thumbtacks and string, like whatever works for you to really map out what your daily processes are. Are you tracking money? Are you tracking, accounting stuff? Are you tracking donations? Are you tracking program members or clients or organization members, club members? Whatever it is you're keeping track of, you have to put a lot of thought into what are you collecting, right? What should you be collecting, right? What are you collecting that you actually don't even need or use, okay? And what are the processes you have to go through to pull that information back out? Because that's where you love your database. You hate it when you're putting stuff in because it's annoying and you have to be careful. It's, when you're pulling it out and you have trust in your data and you know that it's clean and good, and you pull out beautiful graphs and important numbers and startling trends, right? This is when the make or break point comes. Do I love my database or hate it? Because if it's hard to pull a report for last year's steak dinner attendees, you're not going to use it, and your staff's not going to use it, and it's going to sit on the shelf and then your data's just sitting there getting dusty and old, right? And it's useless. And you're better off asking the ED what's in her head because nobody else really knows. So before you get into that, like the hardest part for us was like carving out the time and resources to really investigate what our needs were, because what the volunteer coordinator thought our needs were was different from what the office manager thought our needs were, was different from what the ED thought our needs were. So once we all got together and argued for like 3 days, we figured out what we really needed and what information we wanted out. Like that was our number one question for picking, okay, what do we want to get out of this? What lists do we need to pull? Well, I need to know a list of the volunteers that are available on Wednesday from 5 to 7:30. That live in Elk Grove that I can call and might get here in 10 minutes because our last volunteer just called to cancel. That's our need. So we had to focus in on like that specific need. This is the thing that happens 3 times a day. We got to find this solution, right? So you put that energy in at the beginning to really be careful about defining your needs and your processes and where they're broken and where they don't talk to each other but should. Okay, because the Excel sheet for the writers is on the executive director's, local drive, and the one for the donors is on the, board member's laptop at home. Like, you can't accomplish stuff that way. So where do you need your data to talk to each other? Where do you need it to connect? Because if you're just tracking one thing, names and phone numbers to text, that's fine for an Excel sheet, fine, that's all you need. If you need to know more than that and have it talk to other pieces of data, that's where your CRM comes in, is connecting your data. You know, one big bucket. Okay? Hopefully that helps as kind of a beginning of the conversation, because for us the hardest part was really recognizing that we needed to do that, because some of us were like, hey, we found something great, let's build a thing for the thing. And we're like, no, because we're going to waste 3 years using it wrong and getting frustrated with it and not accomplishing our goals. Let's put the time in at the outset to build it right. And then keep reevaluating, because your needs may change. You know, maybe the thing that you had before was great for then, but now you're doing new stuff and it just doesn't, it won't scale, it won't fit your new needs. So switch it up. You had a question or comment?
I did, and while I heard people talking about the input of the data and the availability, what I heard you say was that there was a certain analytical bent to some of them. I didn't hear anybody talk about the analytics of the CRM, and that's really what I'm interested in, is the data, but the analytics of the data. What advertising is working, what marketing strategy is working, where is it working, what demographic am I reaching?
Absolutely.
Because the group that I work with is primarily old, and the blues is just not a young person's kind of a thing. So I need to know who I'm reaching and where and how. And is there a CRM that does that?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. From my experience, I know that you can accomplish that with Salesforce. I don't have experience with any of the others, so I can't speak to that specifically, but the short answer is yes. And this is, again, where that connection comes into play, right? If your CRM can talk to your social media and your website and your email analytics and your texts, then you start to aggregate all that data, and you can look at a person's profile and see, oh, they opened my last 3 emails, they clicked on this one link in this one, they opened it at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and they also saw my Facebook ad that I put on that day, so they got touched 3 times. Okay.
And Salesforce does that.
Salesforce can do that.
Is that a free Salesforce, or do I have to buy the bells and whistles?
We pay for a text program that works through Salesforce on a subscription basis.
And the text, you mean it sends out text instead?
Sends, receives, it'll automatically schedule stuff, it'll like Autobot type of stuff. It's called Mowgli, M-O-G-L-I, if anybody's interested, but for mobile global impact. That's for, right? And also my favorite of our barn cats, his name is Mowgli too. But so that it's, you know, we pay a subscription for that on top of our free Salesforce license. And again, let's just make the distinction here. There's free as in beer, and there's free as in puppy. Okay? Think about that for a second. All right? Free like a nice cold beer at the end of the workday. Fantastic. There's no commitment. You get a free puppy, you just got a free lifetime relationship of dependence and them teaching you tricks. Yay! Free puppy, it's so cute.
So where do you think Salesforce falls in that?
Puppy. Great Dane puppy. Yeah. Big old puppy. I love it. I took the time on my own time to go and get certified in it because I saw the extensibility of it, the way that they have built it. It's a platform, and on that you can buy whatever Lego bricks you want to build whatever you want. That's the way I look at Salesforce. Now, some of the Lego bricks are free, some of them aren't. You know what I mean? You pick something that works for you and it's worth investing in. If I know this particular volunteer has been late 3 times out of the last 4, texted us at the last minute, and didn't open my last email, right? So I had another thought, but I saw a hand over there. I wanted to address too.
Did you pay for the training?
No. They have a free sort of gamified thing called Trailhead that is a whole series of modules that you complete to train yourself. So it's very great. It's great for the DIYer who has lots of spare time to to learn a whole new language and learn like how to do. I even went to the level of learning just the surface of coding, because most of it you can do without any coding knowledge or anything. But there are some really fun things that you can do if you're into coding and like to tinker. So there's that too. Okay.
Coding as an HTML?
No, they have their own language, but it's not terribly difficult. I mean, you learn one language syntax, you can learn another. It's, you know what I mean? So, but that's if you're in that camp, and if you're like, this is my second part-time volunteer gig, and I have like 3 hours a week to devote to this, you're not gonna go with like something like Salesforce. You need something much more user-friendly, or that's super simple to get into, low barrier to entry. Right? I think I missed. Did I get every table? No, I didn't get you guys. Or you guys? Okay, how about you guys first?
Yeah, so I'm the only one of us that uses a CRM. We actually, I'm with Headwater Science Institute, and we use Network for Good. We love it. It is relatively expensive, but it is very all-encompassing and super easy to use. It is where your donors donate, and then all their stuff is right in your database. So it is your donation platform, plus it's your database, plus it's your MailChimp or whatever you're sending out for your emails, plus it can text, and it tracks all the data, and it's super easy barrier to entry, but you do pay for that. We got a grant to start, and we got a fundraising coach, so it was very, very all-inclusive. So they were looking at our data and who was donating and helping us learn how to use that data, and then moving forward. So it was a one-year program that we got a grant for to do with the fundraising coach, and they do have grants you can apply through Network for Good. And I heard in the back that somebody was struggling with logging in or whatever. So you can have as many logins as you want. So we have board members with logins, we have all of our staff with logins, and it doesn't cost any more. And so you can access it any time of night. It's also our Eventbrite, so you can do ticketing and all of that through it, and then collect whatever information you want for the people coming to your event. So we have found that it's super great, but you do pay for it. But what we've saved in staff time for having everything be integrated is worth $1,000 a year that it costs to maintain it. At least for ours. We have teachers that we're tracking, donors, on multiple things. So we're trying to get donations, plus just send out newsletters, get new schools to work with us. So I think it works across the board.
Fantastic. Awesome. Okay, well, how about you guys? Something interesting up here? All right, you're it.
So some of us here use Neon, and you're not too happy with it.
It's overall,
Overall.
but then not intuitive.
But not intuitive. And then I'm from Weave, and we use DonorPerfect, and I really enjoy DonorPerfect. I think it works well with what we do. We've had a good history of keeping data clean, which is also important in a CRM, because if you don't have good data, you can't get it out. And then we also have we've taken time in the past to have good procedures to get what we need out of it and make it work, and I enjoy it. I've used Salsa in the past, and going from Salsa to DonorPerfect, DonorPerfect is so much better in my opinion, but it's very user-friendly.
Great. Thank you for the plug about clean data. I will pay you later. Because don't get me on my soapbox now, seriously. I have a whole slide. All right, so now we're totally overwhelmed by the choice of CRMs out there. So, so let's talk about who your donors are, right? So some of you are well familiar with this kind of information, but for those of you that aren't, they're the people that come to my crab feed in January every year. Maybe you run an organization that's a membership organization. Your members could potentially be your donors, okay? Because not just who are your donors, who could be your donors, if you just ask them. Your clients. And it's sometimes hard. Some of us are, folks that have lower limited incomes or other socioeconomic factors, whatever. It's hard to think of, our beneficiaries necessarily being our donors, but maybe they could. Maybe they would. Your former folks, your alumni, your board members better be your donors, or they should not be sitting on your board.
Amen.
Okay, okay? If they don't support your organization enough to support your organization, they're on the wrong board. I'm sorry. Well, my apologies to board members in attendance, but if there's one thing Big Day of Giving has taught our organization, is the importance of board engagement, and board giving is part of board engagement, right? Your volunteers could be your donors. Oh gosh, we couldn't ask them for more. They already drop everything on a Tuesday night to come down and help us. Yes, you can!
They signed up for that.
They love you. Newsflash. They give you their most precious asset. The one thing all of us have the same amount of is time. They give you their time. They give you their heart. They love you. You can ask them for money. It's okay. I give you permission. Okay? And if they can't, maybe their mom can, or maybe their best friend can, or maybe they can, forward your message. Maybe they can amplify your message, right? They can help you. Gotta ask them. Small business owners that you work with. Folks that maybe you hit up for sponsorships, right? Once a year for your, steak dinner coming up with the live auction, right? Those folks are your donors, and they better be in your CRM. Anybody that likes you, it to me is a potential donor, right? It's called mission-aligned individuals. It's people that like you. They resonate with whatever it is you are doing to improve this world. Okay? All of those need to be in your CRM. What kind of information should you be gathering about them? Well, basically any and everything you can. Okay? Obviously, you need to know how to contact them. More importantly, you also need to know how they like to be contacted. Because if you're emailing a millennial, your message may not be reaching them like it would if you texted them or WhatsApped them or whatever the latest thing is. Okay? Their bio. Who are they? Why do they like you? If you have that information, it ought to be in there. Where do they come from? Where do they find you? Which of your marketing efforts are working, right? What kind of contact they are. And this is one of those like multi-select fields. So they might be a donor, they might be a writer, they might be a parent, they might be a public member, they might be a media member. We have different contact types so that we can collect different types of information about different types of contacts. Okay, I need to know our writer's medical history. I'm not going to collect that about their parents or the volunteers working with them. Different contact types. Engagement with you. Again, if you can integrate your communications with them, if you can get your texts in there, even if you can manually enter. I emailed Jane today about we have some openings for next session. Okay, even if it's not integrated, manually get that stuff in there if you can. And of course their donation history, right? Did they give? When did they give? Is the trend going up or down, and why, and what can we do about it? Okay? Other things you might want, like I said, contact history with them. We have a checkbox. Does employer match? Should we hit up their boss for money after they give to us? Okay? Some people might collect social handles because they are very active and communicative on Twitter or something. Some people, some organizations, it makes sense to gather and pay for information about wealth screening. Giving capacity. I've never worked at such an org, but I know they exist. Really, whatever's important to you ought to be in that CRM. Okay? That's just how to think about it. Just put everything you got in there. Data hygiene. Okay? Say it with me. No more dirty data.
No more dirty data.
Okay? We hate dirty data. Makes us grumpy. Listen, people's addresses, emails, phone numbers, lives change all the time. All the time. Your CRM data better be keeping up with them, right? If they're dead, you may not want to be emailing them because you're causing unnecessary strife for their poor surviving spouse. Unless you're a hospice provider, I see you, in which case you may need to mail them afterwards going, hey, is there a survey to like your experience with our handling the passing of your dear loved one? Right?
Yeah, actually, we absolutely have to do that.
Right.
Yep.
So,
Mandated to.
but most people, if they're dead, you don't want them in your database. Or if you keep them because you want the spouse or you need to track the memorial gifts or whatever, make a checkbox that says deceased. That activates some widget that makes sure you don't accidentally send something you don't need to send. Okay? Dirty data, in the end, it costs you time and money. And it's everybody's problem. Not just the poor little data entry intern, okay? Not just the person who entered the data, but every person who touches it has the responsibility to clean it, check it, make sure it's accurate in whatever way is possible. You also need to build in preventive measures. Your record is not allowed to be saved if you did not put a name in it. Or if email is more important to you, if there's no email address, it just won't go, right? Oop, sorry, error. And then if you're a geek like me, you can get kind of creative with your error messages and mess with your staff. That's fun. And they come to me with this sheepish look on their face and they're like, I got a message that said, whoa there, partner. Looks like you're entering an incomplete record. Okay. Build in structures to keep your data clean. And spring data cleaning. Scheduled audits. Okay. Double check it. Run a report that looks for nothing but empty fields. Or who was the enterer and what's their overall data quality score. Then you can like put it up on the wall and embarrass people. No, I wouldn't do that. I just bring it to the staff meeting and show it to them. I don't actually tape it to the wall. But seriously, you have to create a clean data culture, okay? Part of that comes in the design. If you have 12,000 fields that are all required, like your data's not going to get entered because, or it's going to be wrong because people are just going to be typing garbage in there to get the fields filled. Only make the ones you really need required and put them right up at the top when you're designing how your data, presents on the page. Make it easy for people to put in clean data. Okay. All right, so enough about CRMs. Let's talk about email and web. So if you're not using some sort of an email marketing app, you should be. Okay, and I'm sure the foundation has covered this in earlier boot camps, probably multiple times, because you just should be. Okay, you cannot Outlook email, 500 people at the same time. Okay, it makes you a spammer. Don't be a spammer. Get a program. There's also, I use Mowgli. People have MailChimp, Constant Contact. There's plenty of them out there. Some of them are, free as in puppy. But there's plenty of choices. Just get one. Any one. It doesn't even matter. Also, it keeps you in the know. So they're collecting all the data about who opened that email and when and what do they click on and how many times. I looked at my analytics one time and I have one user who opens my emails like 60 times. Every time I send out an email blast, it gets opened by that one user like 50 to 60 times. You think that user is engaged with my content?
Yep.
It will like me. Okay? Use that knowledge. Also, who unsubscribed? Oh, it breaks my little heart every time. I hate opening the unsubscribe report. But why? I swear I only send like 4 emails a year. Why? But you need to know. Because you don't want to accidentally be calling that person if they've suddenly decided they hate you. You had that happen. You weren't paying attention. Okay, somebody unsubscribed from our email list because literally they were angry with us. They wanted to volunteer in a certain role and we didn't feel they were safe in that role. And there was no way we were handing a 1,200-pound horse to that person, and we let them know, and they weren't happy, and they unsubscribed from our email list feeling like that meant we weren't going to call them again, except we had a schedule for them that they had submitted to come and volunteer, and we assumed they were going to continue in another capacity. And we called or texted them saying, hey, noticed you didn't show up for your shift, and we got a really angry text back. Okay, and we were mortified. So check your unsubscribes. Okay, use all that knowledge to guide what you do going forward. So this is the kind of pretty graphs I can get out of my email program. What time of day people open my email? 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and 4:30-ish. Good to know. If I send it at 2 o'clock in the morning, it's going to be buried under 27,000 other spam emails by the time they open it at 10. Right? How often do we email them? So the program I use has a auto resend feature if people have not opened your email. And it's interesting. It really is. So I sent an email 2 weeks ahead of Big Day of Giving out to 2,800 people. 35% of them opened my email, and I'm like, yes, that's a great percentage. Okay, 2 weeks out, so that same email was sent like 3 days later. Oh, hey, did you miss this email? We're having a Big Day of Giving. Send it to 1,903 people, 15% opened it. Maybe if they didn't read it the first time, they just really weren't interested. Why am I emailing these people, maybe? I sent one week out to 2,600 people, and 22% of them opened it, and I was happy. Less than the original 35, but it was still okay, good. And then the resend got 11.4%. So my numbers were, declining, and I'm thinking, okay, this is good to know. Maybe like I'm telling them about Big Day of Giving too close together, too often. I definitely don't think I want to do the resend thing next time. Maybe I'm just annoying people. I don't want to be that annoying person in your inbox. So I'm using this data to strategize how I do it this year. So your website is always collecting information. How do people get to you? What search terms are they using to get to you? And you may find some interesting surprises in there and things that you did not realize. What pages are they most attracted to? What are they looking at? How long are they spending on your volunteer page trying to search for the one little piece of information they need, which is when the next training is? Okay? So you can use, again, all these analytics, which content is really, really attractive to them, and also any problems. Are you sending people into a black hole when you link to your Donate Now page? That would be good to know. Dang, that's why there's like no tickets selling for the event. Okay, keep an eye on stuff like that. So moving on from those, let's talk just a little bit about organizational needs, your internal needs. And this is a little bit less about data, but it does come back to data, and I'll show you in a little bit. But so the things that are important to you to say might be, oh, we have an update on our current projects. We have something to celebrate. Ooh, somebody said something nice about us. You want to hear it? Wow, this particular client had a fantastic success. You got to hear about it, right? Hey, we exist. We're here. We offer a service. It's free or something, right? Or maybe what you need. We're building a new outdoor classroom. We need a donation of benches. So what you then want to think about is, what does your audience actually want to hear? Secret, it's not about you. I'm sorry. It's just not. It's about themselves. We are selfish creatures. What's in it for me? Okay? Oh, I got invited to something. Wow, I have something to celebrate. This is fabulous. I want to tell people about it. Oh, other people feel the same way I do about your organization. That's so cool. That validates my feeling. Ooh, I'm part of something successful. Yeah, they're not struggling, they're succeeding, they're growing, they have a new thing. Wow, right? I'm part of it. Ooh, I can help my favorite place. All I have to do is hit share. I can have the power to help. I can help your org by something. Okay, so these are the same messages, it's just about how you frame them. It's not about your needs. Sorry. It's about what people want to hear. When you're crafting a messaging strategy, it's not about what your organization needs. So let's dip a little bit into social analytics. It's a deep well. Just to touch on it, Facebook knows way more about us than we would like, but it's our current reality, so deal with it and at least use the data for good. That's the way I look at it. So if you're on Facebook, this is where to find this information on the Insights tab. You just, once you're in your Facebook page, check out your Insights, and you can find out all sorts of stuff. Age, gender, time of day and day of week that people are looking at, responding to, liking, hating, whatevering with your content. And beyond just their demographics, really their behaviors, okay? What are they viewing? Are they watching your videos? Are they reading your text? What are they clicking on? This is, oh, I call this one the time whale, because it looks to me like a whale on its side, and this is the time of day graph, at least for my particular audience. I like it, and then I look at it and I'm like, who are these people that are on at 2:30 in the morning? And hey, maybe I could say something to them for Big Day of Giving. I didn't realize there was 200 people seeing my Facebook page at 2:30 in the morning. Go to bed, but before you do. You can tell when they recommend you. I love this little spiky guy here. So this is our organic and paid reach. I mean, anybody that saw any of our stuff for like a 2-year period. And this is last year's Big Day of Giving. Now, you probably can't see from your angle, but there is a little ad with the paid. We did do some paid advertising last year, but even without it, it's up to like here. So it's a fun graph. It makes me happy and makes me feel validated that all the work I put into Big Day of Giving is totally worth it. Okay? So you can find out stuff like this if you dig in there. How many people are following you versus unfollowing you? Ooh. Just views by day, by when people are on. You know, we have spikes for each of our fundraising events. That's pretty much what we post about. We don't post terribly often. But there's also spikes for weird things. So like we have a big crab feed in January. It's huge. And this year our chef was a little short on one of his produce orders, and we found ourselves in need of some lemons. So we put a little post out, hey, Project Ryan could use some lemons. It was right when all the lemons were just bursting perfect. Oh, it's gorgeous. Oh, so good. Right? We put a post for lemons. Yeah, just no problem. Okay, we get a couple people. So it was our most engaged post of like the whole year. And I was mortified. I'm like, here I am strategizing and thinking about messaging, and a stupid post about lemons got like shared 50 dozen times. And then of course, we were drowning in lemons. We had lemons for weeks afterwards. So yeah, just goes to show all of our hard work, and people want what they want. I don't know. So just a quick little rundown about when you're messaging. Different platforms work for different things, right? And I know this has been covered in some of the social media workshops and that kind of thing. But so just think about, email. Let's quickly talk about email. We're going to look for, obviously, good imagery. That's a given. You want a call to action in your email, something to do at the end of it. Give, volunteer, whatever. You want it for your general messaging, like, hey, we're going to be closed on President's Day or whatever. Might be read on a desktop, but honestly, more and more is going to be on mobile. You have more room there. You can kind of give a little bit more depth to your stories. You can also give a teaser for a great story and link it right to your website, get them to read whatever message you want to see. I send mine kind of quarterly-ish. There are people that are much more diligent about it and send on a really strict schedule and have wonderful newsletters, and I enjoy reading them. I subscribe to lots of newsletters. But whatever works for your constituency. And then you might want to have like a thumbnail of a video or something that links out to YouTube. So versus Facebook, obviously you still want really great imagery. That's always the given. You also want a CTA. You want that call to action. Donate now. Read more. Come to our website. Come to our event. Please, for the love of criminy, do not link to your other social. I think that is the rudest thing in the world. If you can't be bothered to create a post for Twitter, don't put a link on Twitter to your Facebook. Now you're making me leave the channel I was on and alter my behavior to fit your convenience. Clicking on your link. Okay? Think about it. People don't have time. Respect people's time. So Facebook you might use for like super timely messaging, like the barn is going to be closed today because it's thundering and lightning. Right? You're not going to put that in an email. You need people to know right away. Facebook is almost always looked at on mobile, so don't make your big gigantic content expecting it's going to be seen on a desktop. It's not. It's going to be seen in somebody's hands when they're making sure their boss isn't watching and they have like 3 minutes to look at Facebook in between tasks, and that's about what you get. You don't have a lot of time and you don't have a lot of space, so keep it short. Okay? One post for one message, not like email where you can pack like 10 different things in there if you really want to. One post is one message, and videos are always king pretty much everywhere. So if you have a short, social-friendly video, post it on your Facebook. Now you can link your email to your Facebook. You can say, we have this great video, visit our Facebook, visit our Instagram if that's where you are, visit our whatever. That's fine. Okay? People expect to link out of their email, but not when they're clicking on a link in social media. They don't want to be taken out. So let's talk about your story bank. Hopefully all of you are acquainted with the incredible Katie McCleary and you know about collecting your stories and keeping all these stories handy. If you don't, go back and watch some of her videos. She's incredible. So once you've got a nice good story bank, you can use your data to connect your stories with the right audience. But I found there were stories hiding in my data. I was running reports for things that I needed, and I was finding surprises or things that challenged my assumptions about the program I've worked at for 11 years. And it was fun, so I turned them into stories. Okay, so for example, I did a search, I was actually doing a data audit, and I wanted to see how many of our writers, our clients, had no diagnosis, because that's a critical field. You've got to have a diagnosis to write in our program, right? I'm like spying on my diary, let's see who's not entering the diagnosis and being lazy. And I was looking through the data and I realized, we have a primary diagnosis and a secondary diagnosis still, because I know some of our kids have more than one thing going on, right? Well, it was way more than I thought it was. And then I searched for how many counties we were serving just to fulfill some grant thing, and it was ridiculous. I had no idea that we had grown that big. Okay, I searched just for some newspaper article. Oh, how old are your horses? I'm like, older than dirt? I don't know, 15? No, they were more than that. Okay, I was wondering, so-and-so is here all the dang time. I wonder how many hours she's actually done. She is here every week without fail for like 20 years, right? Or I ran a list, somebody wanted to know, whose birthdays are this month? We should start a volunteer birthday party or something, right? So what I did with all those interesting things is, so over 73% of our clients have more than one diagnosis. Can you imagine being a parent of a child with not a special need, but multiple special needs? That's a story, right? So I might use that in my scholarship appeal. Okay? We have grown in 40 years from serving 5 kids at Jesse Baker School to serving almost 600 riders in 11 counties. Every time I say it, it sounds like a lie. I'm still not sure it's really true, but I checked my data, it's clean. Okay? Amazing. That's a story. It's a story of community support and generosity and vision, and like that's a story. Well, if you're thinking about a retirement job for your horse, this is Grandpa Boomer over here. He's 30 years old. In fact, the average age of a Project Ride horse is 23.4.
Wow.
That's old. I'm sorry, but wait, I was thinking like 15 maybe. No, they're 23 years old. So that's going to go on the horse page on our website. There's a story. These 3 ladies account for 20% of our volunteer hours. That's going to go during the Spotlight on Volunteers celebration. Great story. And they're all buddies. They like go hang out afterwards. Happy birthday, March babies. And I got them in a little list, just first name, on the lobby screen. Volunteer engagement. Touching them. We know you're here. We acknowledge you. Love you. Okay? So that's a lot to think about. Let's take a quick break. Come back. We're going to talk about personas and go through a little exercise and spend some time with each other, kind of developing some plans based on some of the stuff you've learned, okay? All right. So one of my favorite things about Big Day of Giving is what's happening around these tables right now, so I apologize for interrupting it. And I'm going to release you back to talking with these incredible people around you in a moment, but I wanted to gather all of our collective attention to a little task that we complete together and then kind of share the results of. So there is a thing called personas, and you will find on your tables a little worksheet that will help us kind of go through the exercise of developing a donor persona or user persona, whatever kind of persona you'd like, just to kind of recap what we're thinking about. So we want to segment our audience, combining our data from our CRM, email, social, whatever, to outline audience groups. So kind of a conglomerate of these different groups. These personas can kind of give a face to that group and really help you start to think about how to hone your messaging to suit them. And then again, you're going to strategize by looking through your story bank to kind of match the right story to the right persona. So we're going to work through this together, and it's not as daunting as it might feel. So if you want to just kind of check out your handout and take a good look at that, we'll walk through it a little bit together. And this is a collaborative process, so we can bounce ideas off of each other, give suggestions, we'll work for a few minutes, regroup, think, work for a little bit more, okay? So let's, we can leave the name blank for now, because I find the naming of the persona really fun, and I usually do that last, because after I have a good picture of them in my mind, I start to think of like, oh, her name's gotta be this, right? We'll leave that one blank, but start looking at, okay, profession, age, range. Gender is another thing I might include on there. It's only because on my Facebook audience, it's like 84% women, so I know, which of my asks to target. So I'll walk you through like a sample persona for my organization as we do this. So for me, I'm thinking of a volunteer, because our volunteers are a really big constituent for us and a big audience for us to speak to. Okay, so I did some data mining, and I discovered that most of our volunteers, although we have lots of retired folks, most of our volunteers are high school and college age students throughout the course of a year. They're kids, they're millennials, okay? And I'll say they're probably about 95% female. So now I've got a female teenager who volunteers. I'm starting to get a picture in my mind. I see a lot of them, right? So again, you're connecting your data with your personal knowledge of your program. You know who your people are, and if you don't, maybe you should spend some time among them. Get to know them, okay? If you can, or if you have to go through channels to do that, pursue that. It's important to know who your people are. So my person is a 16-year-old female volunteer. What do I know about her? Well, she's on Instagram. As much as I resist, that's where she is. If I want to reach her, I can't use Facebook. Apparently, it's for old people. So, I heard a millennial. Hey, write Instagram messages to our volunteers. They like that. And they do. It's great. So that's going to be my channel for my ask for them for this year. Okay? How do they find out about things that they care about? Do they hear from friends at school? Are they on social media? Are they in a college class and they're learning through an interest club that they joined? And are so how are they reaching out into the world? This one might be a little tougher, but you wanted to kind of think that through. Okay? And then how might they become aware of me, right? If she's a teenager and needs volunteer hours to graduate high school, maybe it behooves me to send an ambassador out to Pleasant Grove High School, which is 2 or 3 miles away from my organization, and on the bus line, and has like 2,000 kids. I'm going to show up there with some good swag, I think, and say, hey guys, 4 nights a week we go up to 8 o'clock at night, and you only have to be 14 to volunteer. That's going to be some super successful messaging, because I get them where they are. So, what do they care about? What do they feel? Well, they obviously care about you, but why? Is it because volunteering with other teenagers at Project Ride after school is a fun social activity? Or is it because her cousin has autism and so she's directly affected by the clientele, the problems, like she has literally a direct connection to my mission, maybe, And then you keep going through there about how they are going to make decisions. So take a little time now, start answering, maybe the first 3 questions. Again, just skip over the name, but maybe kind of do gender, age, like what type of a person they are. Maybe they're an organization member of your organization. Maybe they're a donor group, a subset of donors, so whoever makes sense for you to kind of group into one bunch that you would like to speak to. Okay, we'll give you 3 or 4 minutes to kind of jot down some thoughts and then some time to chat amongst your table and see how you feel about how you're doing. Okay, so let's start to get to a place where we've figured out what stories we're going to tell, which personas. Maybe if you've come up with your name by now, fill that in, and I'll tell you about some of my personas. So our first one was Emily Millennial, which is I'll call our 16-year-old volunteer. Mostly that poke fun at our wonderful millennial on staff whose name is Emily, and I feel like everyone her age is named Emily, so they're all the Emilys. And honestly, obviously, we are stereotyping a little bit here. Yes, okay, let's give ourselves permission to do that. Without discriminating or doing bad things. We are separating people into groups so that we can figure out the right thing to say to the right person, because Emily does not care about the same things that Grandpa Jim cares about. Because he's 75 and a board member, also a volunteer, but a different type of volunteer. Does not email, doesn't understand what social media is, doesn't own a smartphone, okay? I'm going to tell Grandpa Jim what I'm going to tell him in person at the board meeting, and that's which thank you shift I want him to take during the big day of giving, and I know which one it's gonna be because he gets up at 3 o'clock in the morning, so he's gonna take that 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. shift, but I'm gonna check with Grandpa Jim and just make sure, because I'm gonna count on him, and that's his one thing that he can do for us on big day of giving, and it ain't gonna get to him on Facebook or Instagram, right? And then I've got Crab Feed Linda, whose only connection to our organization is she really enjoys seafood and she eats a ton of it at our crab feed in January. Okay? Now, that's pretty much all we got about her, but that's a $65 ticket, so that makes her a donor, right? But maybe not a donor in the same way that a different type of donor would be, right? So for me, this is who I have. I got Emily Millennial, I got Grandpa Jim, and Crab Feed Linda. So hopefully my ridiculous names give you some inspiration of what not to name them. Just giving it a name makes it more human, honestly, and makes you really start to feel like you can develop a personal relationship with this group of people that you can then communicate with efficiently. Okay? So obviously these guys have different motivations, needs, channels. Let's look through, for me, what that would look like. So for Emily Millennial, what I want from her is to create a peer-to-peer campaign this year and convert herself from a volunteer for our organization to a donor. And that's fine with me if she does it at the $15 level, but I'd really like for her to make a campaign to raise $50 from her friends, and I'm going to tell her, ask her, let her know about this plan by creating a gamified system where every volunteer who makes a campaign gets a keychain, and if you raise all your money, you get a t-shirt and you get to go on stage at the event we have. Very specific messaging to a very specific group with a call to action. Grandpa Jim, we talked about, come on down to the barn at 4 a.m. in the morning and relieve our executive director who insists on taking the midnight to 4 shift, because that's when her sister donates from South Dakota every year, and they talk on the phone afterwards, and it's become a tradition. Okay? Grandpa Jim knows where he's supposed to be, but he likes me reminding him. It makes him feel important, so I'm going to do it in person. Linda, sorry, there's no crab at our big dog event, but it is super fun and there's wine, so that's fun. I'm going to tell you on Facebook, along with 3,000 other people, that we have an event on the big day of giving. It's after work, drop by, it's super fun. Okay, I'm going to say that on Facebook and in my email blast, honestly. Whoop, sorry about that. So just as a recap, looking back, you can use your data in wonderful ways to help you do what you're doing more intelligently. So your CRM gives you who your donor data, who your donors are, your social, your web, your email, give you more insight into their behavior, where they are, what channel you're going to use to reach them. Your data can even turn into stories if you're looking and listening to it and cleaning it. You can use personas. It's just one tool of many to help you kind of focus your efforts a little bit. And the key thing is to use all your data together as best you have, even if it's 3 Excel spreadsheets, Gene's Rolodex, your executive director's brain, and the beginnings of the CRM you started. Use whatever you got and try to come up with a strategy that you think will work. And you know what? If it doesn't, try again, whatever. It's a process. You're not going to maybe get it right the first time. But if you're careful and learning from your mistakes as you go, well, hey, that's just more data, right? Tell the right story to the right person when you can, and try to have fun with your data, okay? I hope if there's anything I've done this morning is to try to make your data feel a little bit more accessible to you and not like something you have to do on time card day, okay? So have fun with your data. And with that, I'll leave you with a cat meme. There are 2 types of people in this world. 1, those who can extrapolate from incomplete data. Sorry, that was cheesy. Before I go, I want to acknowledge, of all the brainiacs in this room, some extra special folks, Big Day of Giving mentors. If you guys could all stand for me. I'm so honored that you joined me for your presentation. And I hope that putting a face to some of the names in the mentor database that is awaiting you on the website. We are people who are so nuts about Big Day of Giving that we take time off from our regular jobs to come and offer you, in whatever way works, a little bit of insight, a cheerleader, a friend, somebody to bounce ideas off of. Please utilize us. We're in every region, we're in every of the beautiful circles in the infographic, we're in all causes, we're in all sizes, and we're here for you. So please, if you do anything, take your call to action from today, reach out to a mentor, okay? Continue the conversation. We are so pleased and thrilled to be privileged to serve in this way. So the worst thing you can do is not call us. So please call us, and thank you so much to the foundation for, I don't know how to even say it. So when we started with the Sacramento Region Foundation, the very first year, before even the Big Day of Giving, we went to the presentation about the Generosity Project. And that's been a long 7 years, 8?
8 years.
Anyway, I'm not good at math, I told you. That journey has been life-changing for our organization and many here. And it's impossible now to imagine where we would be if we had not come on this journey. So thank you so much, staff and your board, for all that you guys do for all of us so we can help everybody.